Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to be making a pair of friction folders. These are just simple folding knives that just use friction and don't have an actual lock to them. They're a lot of fun to make, so let's get into it. So I've got this multi-bar Damascus sax blade that I left in the oven just to anneal last night. I wasn't happy with the blade, it just came out too thin for a sax, but it's got this really nice Damascus on it. So I'm just going to cut off a couple chunks of it and use those for my blades. It's going to look super sweet, and then at least this material won't be going to waste. I think I've got a nice chunk of pattern if I cut a blade out right about here. I want to get both the core steel, which is just wavy lines, and the edge bar, which is twisted W's, I think. It's been a while since I made this thing. These are mostly just going to be stock removal, just because the form that it's already in. But I'll just give myself a little bit of a line just so I have a rough idea. So I got a new stump for my anvil, but I haven't gotten around to leveling anything or bolting the anvil to it or anything at all like that. So this is moving around, this is wobbling, we'll see. I might end up just dropping 120 pounds on my foot, but we'll see. Hopefully it works, but it might be moving around a bit, so sorry about that. So I've got these two blanks cut and ground, ready to go into the forge. I still need to forge down that little back tab, which has to be thicker than the stock material. So I'm just going to forge it down and widen it out. So I'm just going to get these in the fire, get those tabs forged out. I'm also heating up a big bar of wrought iron, or I think it's wrought iron. And I'm going to start forging that down because I want to try and use the wrought iron for the actual handle. So I'm going to try and forge it down. I want a width of like 3 inches on the wrought, just because that's probably maybe close-ish to being more than enough material for the handle. I haven't really seriously swung a hammer since my accident, but I'm feeling pretty good. I've been dinking around on these the last couple days and it's felt pretty good. So we'll see if I can get back in the swing of it, see how swinging a hammer feels with my shoulder. But we'll see. Should be fun. So after forging, I used the heat treat oven, got these all thermal cycled and nice, ready for everything else. And then I did a little bit of cleanup grinding on them just to get some stuff flat and refine the profiles and just clean some stuff up so I have a better idea of what's what. I also looked at the pattern, which is pretty sweet. So next thing I'm going to do is I've got my extra crunchy taco shells here. I'm just going to clean them up a little bit, and then I can start fitting them to the blades and dialing stuff in. Okay, so here's the tricky bit that kind of needs a little explaining, which is figuring out where the pivot hole goes. So I gave myself a pencil line across here and here where I know that the pivot's going to be going this way. But now to figure out where it is centered, I'm going to line those two lines up with the back of the knife flush with the back of the handle here. And then I can use my calipers, scribe a line there. And then I take this to where it would be in the closed position with a little space because it can't go all the way to the back. And then scribe a second line. And then basically right between those lines is where my hole needs to be for the knife to be in this position and also in this position where I want it to be. Alright, as you can see, we've got holes in both of these pieces, which means I can just stick them together for now. Drop a pin in there. It's a little tight. I'll grab a hammer. There we go. So, it closes. It's closed there. And then it doesn't open because it's hitting up here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grind off the back side here until it will open fully. Okay, so now the blade closes and opens fully. So now you can see my Sharpie line on there. That's where I'm going to grind to. I'm going to do some of this with the blade in there, and then obviously the front I'll have to take the blade out. But we'll see. We're closing in on the shape. Right now it looks like a blob, but pretty quick it's going to start looking like an actual folding knife. So I've got these both to the same step. They both close and open, and the profiles of everything are where they're supposed to be. Everything works right, just there's no friction at the moment because they're not actually stuck together. So now I'm going to heat treat the blades. Blades have already been normalized and thermal cycled, so I can just go straight into the hardening and tempering. So I'll get the oven heated up, throw these in there, get my oil heating, and then just get these bad boys hardened up. Alright, I just pulled these guys out of the oven. They've been tempered up. Did 2 cycles for 2 hours each at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So they should be nice and tempered now. Now what I'm going to do, I've got a fresh 120 belt. I'm going to just clean everything up, get everything nice and flat, and then I'll start grinding in my bevels. So now the part I need to make is, I guess, like the pivot head or something like that. It's going to be the little round piece that the pivot pin comes up through and gets peened over onto, giving it the actual friction and tightness. So my idea is I'm going to have the outside ring is going to be this moose antler, which is, as you can see, the antler we used in the One Day Fantasy knife build. So that's going to be like a white ring on the outside, and then I'm going to have copper on the inside, going to be peened over, and then there's going to be that steel pivot pin coming up through the middle. That should look cool, just another detail. So I'm just going to cut up my antler in copper and get those parts made. Well, 2 of those went better than the other 2. So here's this little setup I've got here. I've got my antler bits and I'm trying to turn these little round pieces down. So I've got this bar that has been clamped down to my work rest, which is perfectly square right now. And then I've got this little 1/4 inch guy coming up, so I can drop the piece of antler over it. It's a nice tight fit, and then turn it against the belt to get the right size, and because I can turn it, I can get it perfectly round. And then to adjust the size, I can just move this bar in or out to change the depth. So it's actually really sweet. Super simple. This is something I actually saw my grandpa do first. Alright, now that we have all our other parts made, I can take my blades and the handles and get them etched, clean them off with some rubbing alcohol, just so that they're clean, don't have anything on them, and then I can stick them in the ferric chloride, and that'll etch them, and I'll just let them go until it looks right. I'm not really sure how long that'll take. I'm just going to play it by ear, check them every once in a while, and just go until it's right. I might do a little sanding or something in between etches. This is the part when this pattern's really just going to come out, and it's just a real gorgeous pattern. I can kind of see it already shining through, and it is just wild. Okay, so I took the blades out of the ferric. I got the depth I wanted. They're looking great. The next thing I did is I took them to the buffer, and I just totally buffed them out, all shiny, all that. And then cleaned them up, and then stuck them in some instant coffee. This is hot instant coffee. It just means it'll work a little faster, I think. So I'm just going to let those sit in there overnight. I think should be good. So basically, when I come in the morning, all I need to do is just assemble everything. And then I'll already have a nice cup of coffee waiting for me. So really not much I can screw up at this point. I shouldn't say that, should I? Yum. So these blades are out of the coffee, and they're looking absolutely delicious. So now that these are all high contrasty looking great, I can put everything together. So I actually made these knives for my parents. They have been my biggest supporter, and they've let me fill their garage up with forges and vices and anvils and steel dust and all kinds of chemicals and stuff not all parents would be okay with their kid having and storing in their home. But my parents have supported me, and I really wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now without them. So I'm just very thankful. I really appreciate all of your support as well. I do not know when the next video will be, but I do have a lot of cool stuff coming along. So, yeah, that's all I've got for now. Thanks everybody, and enjoy some close-ups of these two.